So today I'm going to tell you guys about the Pueblo Revolt of 1680. This took place in and around Santa Fe, New Mexico. More like all of northern New Mexico, really. The Pueblo Revolt is known as America's first revolution before America's first revolution. It was the only indigenous rebellion that was ever won against the European invaders. The Aztecs rose up and rebelled, they lost. The Incas rolled up and rebelled, they lost. Any indigenous tribe that rose up and rebelled, whether it was in the Caribbean, North America, South America, the American Southwest, any of them that rebelled, they all lost. And there was a lot of rebellions, just look it up. But the Pueblo Revolt of 1680 was successful. But it was started by this man named Pope from Oqueawingue, which was then called San Juan by the Spaniards. And it was called San Juan all the way up until recently. I was told that it is now Oqueawingue again. Anyway, so Pope came from Oqueawingue. So back in those days, there was a group of pueblos that lined the Rio Grande from Taos all the way down to Isleta. They were all under Spanish rule. They couldn't practice their own religion. They couldn't practice their own tradition. They couldn't even, be their own culture. They were forced to conform to the Catholic way of life, the European way of life. I know how that is, to be forced to do something you don't want to do. Anyway, so all these pueblos that were along the Rio Grande, they were all divided. They weren't against each other necessarily, but they weren't together. Every single pueblo was for itself. Sometimes they fought little skirmishes with each other here and there, stuff like that, but every pueblo was like its own little town, its own tribe, they had their own chiefs, they had their own little everything. They weren't together, is the point I'm trying to make. Pope figured the only way to defeat the Spanish were if he could get all the pueblos to unite into one. Now Santa Fe was the center of governance. It was the capital city of the northern province of New Spain. Mexico City was the capital city of the southern province of New Spain. At that time they had a road, El Camino Real, that connected Santa Fe to Mexico City, and every few years, 1 to 3 years, they would send a supply train from Mexico City up to Santa Fe to supply the soldiers with their swords, their armor, their food, everything they needed, because it was way up in the north. So you had Santa Fe right here, and then the Rio Grande goes around it, and up and down. All the pueblos down the Rio Grande, south of Santa Fe and north of Santa Fe. There's a handful of each, north and south. Just remember that. So Pope went from pueblo to pueblo, and he talked to each chief, and he got them to all unite and get under the idea of a rebellion, of a revolution. They wanted their way of life back. They wanted their land back. They wanted their peace back. But to get that peace back, they had to spill blood. Pope wanted all the pueblos to gather together and rise up on the same day and just kill every Spaniard. Man, women, and child. So there was a lot of Spanish settlers at the time who settled north and south of Santa Fe around where these pueblos were. So Pope's idea was to slaughter all these people, all the settlers, attack every single one, but he said to kill them all. He wanted to make sure they kill all of them. He wanted to kill all of them so that way when they got to Santa Fe, the governor would know they were serious. So step 1 was uniting the pueblos and getting them under the idea of revolution. Step 2 was getting a way to make them all rise up on the same day. So he came up with the clever idea of the knotted cord. What he did is he got a rope and he tied a bunch of knots in them. And he made a bunch of these ropes. So back then, they had to run from pueblo to pass messages. So he sent these 2 kids. I want to say their names were Umtua and Comtua, but don't quote me on that. But they're these 2 native kids that he had running to pueblo, giving those ropes to everybody, letting them know. The idea of the rope was to untie 1 knot each day. And on the day you untie the last knot, that's the day you rise up. So that way they could all rise up together. So boom, the plan was in place. While one of the pueblos that these 2 kids went to, the chief of this pueblo was playing the part, like if he was down with it. But when the kids went to sleep, he got on his horse and ran to the governor in Santa Fe and told him what was going on. He told them everything. He told them about the knotted cord. He told them the date, everything. So the governor sent soldiers to that pueblo, and they took those 2 kids, bring them to Santa Fe, and questioned them. Questioned them. Before Pope sent them off, he told them what to say in case they were to get caught. All they told the Spanish governor was that they were on a mission for their God or something like that, and they didn't tell him nothing. They were just feeding him bullshit. So the governor got mad, took him outside, and hung both of them. Then he told all the soldiers to be at ready, took the cannons out, and armed Santa Fe to be ready for the rebellion. He knew what date it was gonna happen, so he was ready. Now Pope had his people that had their ears to the ground too. So he found out that the governor found out about everything and that he hung the 2 kids. He also found out the 2 kids stayed solid. Side note, Pope was so serious about this revolution that he killed his own son-in-law because his son-in-law wasn't loyal to it. It was some real shit. Anyway, once Pope got word that the governor knew about the rebellion, he sent word to every pueblo to attack now. As soon as each pueblo got the word, they rose up. There's a story in Jemez where they went into the church and they beat the shit out of the pastor or the priest. They killed him, dragged him through town. There's just all kinds of shit. They desecrated the altars. They burned the churches. They attacked every Spanish village, every Spanish house. They killed every Spaniard. North and south of Santa, all the pueblos rose up one by one and killed all the Spaniards in the surrounding areas. There's only a couple that are known to have escaped. Back in that day, the pueblo of Isleta was another Spanish stronghold. So you had Santa Fe and Isleta to deal with. So they came up with the clever plan of surrounding Isleta to the south of Santa Fe. So they told the soldier that was in command that Santa Fe had fallen and that the governor was dead. They believed this story and they fled south. Another cool thing about the Pueblo Revolt is that Pope studied the sky. He knew the weather patterns. He knew when storms were coming, when they were brewing. While he knew that it was going to be a big rainstorm and it would flood the Rio Grande, and when the Rio Grande was flooded, the supply train that was coming from Mexico City would be delayed because it was soon to be on the way. So after they finished defeating Isleta, they moved north to Santa Fe. All the ones in the north finished defeating all the northern Spanish. They descended on Santa Fe and they surrounded Santa Fe and put it under siege. The remaining Spanish locked themselves in the palace of the governor. The natives blocked off their water supply. They couldn't get no food, they couldn't get no water, they couldn't get nothing. They had them under siege for days and days and days. They started to be hungry and they started to thirst. The governor had a meeting with the main chief that was there. Not Pope, but it was another man. The man went in there with 2 crosses made out of wood, a red one and a white one. He told the governor, you guys choose what you want. There's the white one and there's the red one. White one means peace, red one means war. If you choose the white, you guys gotta pack up and leave and we'll let you go in peace. But if you choose the red, there's gonna be blood and we'll kill you all. The governor chose the red. So Santa Fe is under siege. All the Spaniards north and south are slaughtered. Isleta fled south and the caravan is stuck down there. They met up together, by the way, down the road, way down south. They told the caravan what happened, and so they turned around and went back to Mexico. So no supplies were on the way. So the Spanish are stuck inside the governor's palace. The natives are all around them under siege, occupying all the houses. The churches are burnt. People are dead. It's going down. I'm gonna make a part 2 to this next, so tune into part 2 to see what happened. The rest of the story is pretty bloody.